So when I was a small kid, I was a bit of a handful, and I had a penchant for making fires because I wanted to be a fireman.
Right, okay. Like my dad, he was probably the one who pushed me to go self-employed because he was like, "You're not going to earn any more doing what you're doing."
You got a yard here, can I rent it? And this surveyor came down and he said, well, if you can clear it, you can have it for a peppercorn rent. And I got it for £99 a year.
You kind of made your own luck.
It's not rocket science that the most successful companies in this country invest in training
Yeah,
and invest in their workforce.
yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Talks Trades. Today I'm with Jason Wright. He's from J Wright Roofing and he's all the way up from Nottingham. So thanks for making the journey up, Jason. We're going to get his full story and we're going to dip into skills shortage, roofing shortages, everything in between. But who knows where we'll end up. Just stay tuned into the end and you'll soon find out. Welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm pretty good, thank you.
Yeah, and it was an okay journey up here.
Yeah, I came up on the East Coast line yesterday.
Yeah, I seen that on your LinkedIn.
This is a cracking train journey, that is.
Yeah, and no, good stuff. And did you stay over in Edinburgh last night then?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, let's just go get started and get to it. How did you get into the trades then?
How long have you got? So when I was a small kid, 6 or 7, I was a bit of a handful, and I had a penchant for making fires because I wanted to be a fireman.
Right, okay.
We had one of those fire engines visit our primary school, and that's what I wanted to do. So much so that when I was 7 in the hot summer of 1976, I managed to get hold of a box of Swan Vestas, and my parents used to go to this pub on a Sunday afternoon, and it backed onto a load of allotments, which backed onto some old railway sidings, and I managed to set fire to the whole lot with just one Swan Vesta. My mum kind of knew it was me, because obviously I've got a bit of a history for it, and that was it. And she went to my dad, that's it, you got to take him to work. And every weekend, every school holiday, my dad used to take me to work with him. He was a small builder who did a bit of roofing.
Yeah.
And I used to go and play in the sand. I used to go and carry bricks. By the age I was 12, I was actually working on the roofs with him. And the only reason he got into roofing was that he got fed up with roofers letting him down.
Yeah.
And by the age of 16, I had my own team. So even at school, all my friends used to call me Rufus because I was always roofing.
Yeah.
I used to have the best suntan after the 6 weeks holidays going back to school because I never went on holiday, you know.
Yeah.
I think I went to the Skegness once in my younger years, you know, and that was in like a long weekend with my dad and my mum. So at 16, I had my own team under my dad and doing ever so well. Did my apprenticeship then underneath him, slating and tiling.
Yep.
I was doing lead works. I was doing the lot all by myself. And at 22, it was Easter, 1991. And I was doing a private job on a weekend. And my dad got wind of it and he sacked me on the Friday. And out of stubbornness, and because I wouldn't back down and apologise to him, I started up on the Monday on my own.
Wow.
My parents had got divorced many years before then, so I was living with my mum.
Yeah.
She just bought a council house a couple of years before. So I went to my maternal grandfather, Horace, who hated my dad. Well, I wouldn't say I hated him, but he wasn't his favourite person.
Yeah.
And I said, can I borrow £1,000? And he said, what do you want it for? And I said, well, I know a plumber who's selling an escort van for £400. I need some ladders. I need a crawler, and I'll pay you back in 6 months. And he just gave me £1,000, and I never looked back.
And was that a lot of money back then, £1,000?
£1,000 was a lot of money, yeah. I mean, I was still living at home with my mum. So I was using her back garden as my yard, if you like.
Yeah.
All my materials was going there. I drove around to all the building sites who my dad was doing work for and managed to pick up a little bit of work here and there.
So you're just stealing the work from your dad?
Yeah, basically. I was doing...
Did you fall out? Was that sort of...
We didn't speak for about a year or so.
Yeah.
And then we made up. And then about 3 or 4 years later, he came to work for me.
Wow.
And we never looked back. And he was a cracking tradesman.
Yeah.
he just didn't like paperwork. He didn't like meeting people. He wasn't very good at that.
Yeah, just
So I did all that.
very sort of hands-on and get the job done, but everything else is a nuisance, really.
Yeah,
which can be quite common for trades guys, to be fair.
It is.
It's something you either learn it and take to it, or like you probably need to get a team in around you to do it. It can be quite difficult. So was that really just then, like, we did move quite fast there. What, like the fire starting thing? What was that like? How as like, I don't know. I'm maybe just like one of these people who tries to attach deeper meaning to everything. But is this the beginning of like being an entrepreneur? And I want to, or is it just we just being bad? Like, what's
I think I was just a naughty boy. I wasn't evil. I wasn't going around mugging people and stuff like that. But I was just a mischief. I think we touched on it earlier on. I can't sit still. I was there, in here, and everywhere, and I think that was just the catalyst really for me starting my journey. Because I wanted to be a fireman.
Yeah, I resonate with it because like I used to be the same. Like I used to set fires, and I was like thinking that's pretty bizarre. Like you were the same, and like, but I always remember like there was a few times like. I did it quite a lot, to be fair, similar to what you were saying, so I was really relating to it. But then when, like, 2 of the times, one was, like, really quite bad, and this older kid had to, like, basically put it out. Yeah. I think the fire brigade maybe did come, but, he was going crazy. But, like, I was thinking...
Oh, this was a huge fire.
I was like, how did that fire get so big? Like, I don't think I started with intention of thinking, like, it was this area called the Moss, like where I was from, and it was just like all woodland, and it was like the full thing was basically up. But I didn't just go out with that intention. I just was like, I want to like sort of get my teeth into something here. Oh, this is quite exciting. And then the next thing you've set a big fire, and it's like, I don't know. I'm probably just trying to attach a deeper meaning to it that might not be, but it just kind of makes me think of business and risk taking a bit. Like I've probably been like that over the years. Like I'll just try this, and then the next thing, like you've grown quite a big company or something like that, or you're employing a lot of people. It just, these wee things kind of shape us. But anyway, then so your dad basically gave you the sack as such because were you stealing work from him? He thought that was because you were doing your own job at the weekend.
I was doing a private job for a friend's mum.
Yeah.
And I took one of the labourers to help me.
Right, okay.
He's obviously told somebody that he's earned a bit of cash at the weekend.
Yeah.
It got back to my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was, wasn't very happy about it. He said if I'd asked him, to borrow the van and borrow the equipment, and obviously I'd used a bit of his materials.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you've seen the podcast episode with me and my brother, but he did similar to me, and he got the sack as well. And I remember at that time for us, it was just, I just had to, I think I had like 16, 17 guys at the time, and I was quite young as well. And my brother was obviously on the team. I think he was either still an apprentice or just recently qualified. And I just didn't know how to handle it if there was going to be like all of them doing that every weekend and like sort of, we'd priced that job, and then my brother ended up doing it with another guy that worked for me and things like that. And looking back, it wasn't the end of the world, but it was just at that time we just had to build a culture here that was going to be, we don't really put up with things like that. But no, so I'm with your dad on this one. I'm only kidding. And then so you got a loan of £1,000 from your granddad.
Yeah, I paid him back within 6 months.
As you agreed.
As I agreed, because then I knew I could always go back again and back again and back again. Yeah. And we started picking up, was doing all what I call Mrs. Miggins' work, re-roofs and repairs and anything that came along, really.
Yeah.
But I hit it at the wrong time, because 92, we had quite a bad building recession in the UK. And it got so bad, we was doing work for small builders.
Yeah.
Who literally got you down to the bone, to do the job, because everybody was
no margins, really.
Yeah, there was no margins. It was literally
stuff.
Literally working for wages.
Yeah.
I bought my first house in 92 for £29,000, which was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
And I went back to my granddad to borrow the deposit, because the deposit was like 10%, so it was like nearly £3,000.
Yeah.
And he borrowed me the deposit, and I paid him back again. And then we just sort of like meandered for a few years, and we picked up some work, and then we didn't, and then we had some smaller builders and contractors getting bigger, who we'd done work in the early days, and they kind of took us with them.
So they were picking up more than you were.
They was picking up more, and there was around Nottingham. They was doing a lot of barn conversions, so we was doing a lot of pan tile work and a lot of lead work. And 94, I reckon, was the turning point. 94, 95, things started to get a little bit better, and we was then employing around about 7 guys, including me and my dad. So we got 5 guys working for us, and I turned my spare bedroom of my new house into our office, if you like, and using the back garden there. Then I rented a unit where because my wife said, you've got to get rid of all these materials. It was just looking like Steptoe's yard.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm relating to it because I was similar. It wasn't actually at my mum's house, but it was I got with Kelly when I was quite young, and like it was at our house in the back garden, just had a shed, and it was all like materials, and then at the side of it, then behind the shed, and then before you knew it, it was like, well, we were out in my yard this morning having a look. It was kind of like that, but in the back garden, it was shocking, to be fair. But you've just got to do what you've got to do at that time.
You've got to do what you got to do.
You don't want an overhead of like a unit probably at that point, because you're thinking,
and we couldn't afford it. It was one of those. And
do you think it's one of these things? Because this is a question I do get asked. Like, when can you afford a unit? And you can't really, can you? You need to just grow into it.
So in Nottingham, there's an area called the Meadows, which is a lot of Victorian houses, and then at the back of the houses, between every 6 houses, there was an alleyway.
Yeah.
And at the back of the houses was like the old yards.
Yeah.
And years ago, one would be like the Coleman's yard, one would be like where the milkman kept his horses and kept his crates, I suppose.
Yeah.
And somebody just told me, said, there's some old yards which are all overgrown and they're owned by the council. So I took a trip down there and I found this yard, and I had to like climb over this old fence, and it was just full of builder's rubble. And there was an old stables there, which would have been where the horse was kept. But the yard was lovely, big enough. It was about 30 yards big, 10 yards wide, and an alleyway down to it, private alleyway. So I contacted the council. I says, you got a yard here, can I rent it? And this surveyor came down and he said, well, if you can clear it, you can have it for a peppercorn rent. And I said, what's that? Because I didn't know what a peppercorn rent was. And I got it for £99 a year.
Wow.
And we cleared it. I mean, it took us weeks, every spare time I was down there with a shovel, we got skips, managed to get a skip wagon just down the alleyway. And after 2 or 3 years, we made a little office, we made the yard. We had to put a new toilet in because the toilet was all smashed. And I think it'd been used a bit like a drug den or where kids had been playing. And but that was 96 and 98. I asked the council if I could buy it off them. They never sent a surveyor down. They just sent me a cost, and it was 25 grand. Plus I had to pay the solicitor's fees.
Yeah.
So I had a surveyor come and cost it all up, and he said it's worth 120 all day long. This was 96 going into 97. And when I was even signing the actual deeds, my solicitor says, I cannot believe the council have not sent anybody down. And then we had an asset, which we paid off within 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
We're then picking up more and more work. And I was big into the heritage because my dad loved Victorian buildings and Georgian buildings.
Yeah.
And in the park area of Nottingham, which is like a private estate right next to Nottingham Castle, there's some lovely Victorian and Georgian houses there. And we got to know these landlords who did a lot of student accommodation all around Nottingham. And they all lived in the park.
Yeah.
And then we ended up doing the student accommodation. Then, by the way, can you come and do my house? And this was now, late 90s. And some of these houses were like 20, 30,000. Today, they'll be like £100,000 roofs. But back then, there was like 20 or 30,000 pound houses. I had a good relationship with one of the independent roofing merchants. And to this day, I still play golf with the owner who sold out years ago to SIG. And he gave me an account early doors. And then when I went to him, I said, look, I've got this job. He extended
Yeah.
credit terms. He extended my, how much I could borrow, and you need that luck along the way.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's not just a combination that you know how to do the job. You know where to get the good lads from. It's also having them relationships
Yeah.
with other people.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I can relate, because I think even though everyone's journey is different, there's just similarities. But I think what was interesting there is the fact that you took the yard that probably a lot of people might have screwed their nose up at and said, oh, that's a mess. So like you took a risk there, and you actually you went down, you cleared it all out, and you got like the peppercorn
yeah.
rent, like you said. I'd never heard of that before, to be honest. But so you kind of made your own luck. Whereas like if you just kept waiting for the perfect place to show up at the perfect rate, like sometimes I just think those little risks just
You do make your
puts a
own
wee
luck.
ripple out into the universe to say, look,
Yeah.
I'm serious about this. I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to make it happen. And then it just kind of comes back in sometimes mysterious ways.
But you'll find that people will look at you and look at me now and say, "Oh, he's had it easy,"
Yeah.
and his dad helped him along the way. But it's not just my dad. There's a lot of people who help you along the way.
Yeah.
You know, your grandparents, my mum, having a good wife behind you.
Yeah.
You know, because you won't be there without them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. And I think that in itself, being able to take that support on is important, because a lot of, and it's probably cliche for men, but
Yeah.
trades guys as well, is
Yeah.
I'll do it myself, it's fine. But I think you do need those little you do need those, like, you need that support network around you. You need to be able to lean on people. I think that's like, even like what you said with the guy who had the independent roofing merchant. You need somebody to take a wee chance on you.
Yeah.
But usually, if you've built yourself in such a way that you can influence these people to believe that you will make it work, because you sort of show in the way that you're acting with them that, look, I'll be good for this. Like your granddad, for example, if you asked him for the £1,000 and you said you give him it back in 6 months because you did, it's like, right, well, that's a bond now. That's right. He's good for it. And I think that's something that really, right throughout the trades, roofing especially, like, do what you say you're going to do, because that once you get that bit right, it's hard for any customer or any employee or anyone to really ever doubt you, because it's like, I said I'm going to do this and I've done it, and it builds a lot of trust.
A big saying for me is integrity. You know, if you've not got integrity, then I ain't got a lot of time for people who've not got that. Core values, I call it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think as well, like, it's easy, like you said, for someone to say, oh, your dad gave you a hand or whatever. Like, sometimes, like, my dad gave me a hand in terms of, he was probably the one who pushed me to go self-employed, because he was like, you're not going to earn any more doing what you're doing. I was a qualified roofer at this point, and then I was sort of working 5 days employed, a couple of days at the weekend doing my own sort of private jobs, and then I would do like Chinese deliveries at night. And I was like, I actually had a wee sort of grass cutting thing on the side as well. I just like worked every hour under the sun, and I quickly realised that, like, trading time for money, there's only ever going to be so much value in that. And my dad had said, look, you'll need to be self-employed if you want to earn more. And the whole thought process behind it was, I'll be able to make what I've been making 7 days plus nights doing the Chinese deliveries and all this stuff in 5 days, and then I can have more time with the young family and all of that. And it never really worked out like that. I actually ended up being like 7 days for like years after that. I think because it was my own thing as well, and I was so passionate and driven to make sure it worked, that I would be quoting all weekend, or I'd be squeezing in extra jobs or whatever. But I actually think back as well, and like, my dad didn't see it being the way that it's played out, really. Like, when I was going to like get a sign written van and I wanted to build a brand, like, he was dead against that. So he was actually, in some ways, he would hold me back until I proved to him what it was I was trying to do. So even though he helped me at the beginning, he was like, you should get self-employed, and he helped me like buy a van, and I paid him back. He actually said, I'll get you your first van. But like, I just thought like, all right, he's just buying it. But it was like, he got me it, and then it was like, I paid him it back, which it was great, even the fact he got me it. But at that time, it was like, I probably even had a wee bit of entitlement. I was like, this isn't really getting me my first van. It's just like, helping me to get it, but
Yeah.
then so he kind of sorted that out. He had like he had his own business at the time, so he kind of sorted it out, and then like I just paid him it back, basically rented it off him, sort of thing. It was something like that. But I just went through a period of time where when I was getting my own van, and then I'm like, right, I'm going to sign right this, I'm going to do this, branded uniforms and things like that. He just didn't believe in any of that because it's not really the way that he'd seen. So it took for quite a while for like him to actually, like I had to actually stop listening to him quite a bit, and I don't think he liked that. And then, do you know, I started kind of to change things, and then he probably just seen that actually looks quite clever what you're doing there. And then I think at a time, you're always maybe waiting on that I'm proud of you son kind of moment or whatever, and he never really quite said that, but it just sort of went, "Oh, you're going to be like one of them, what is it they call it, millionaires." And that was the way he kind of put it, because he could just see that I was now leveraging other people's time for money as well, and not just like me putting in unlimited hours and thinking that's going to equate to this. It was starting to actually build a team and utilize them, and then, you know, like actually build a business. And I think when he seen that, I think he probably it started to change. But I guess really what my point was is people will help you, but also the same person that's helping you might actually try and just mold you into their way. So it sometimes can be difficult to the person that's helped you to take that help, but then also try and go against them.
Yeah.
Because like I'd imagine, I don't know if your granddad was this way, but if he's like, sometimes if the person's giving you the money, they'll also have a bit of input on what you should do it, or you should do this or you should do that. I think
I did use my granddad as a sounding board, because my dad was exactly what you just said there. He was stuck in his ways.
yeah,
You know,
they're
and
biased to like their limiting beliefs and conditioning that their parents probably passed them down in
Yeah.
a sense. I think they want what's best for you, but in the way that they know is safe and controllable in
Yeah.
a sense. I don't know if that would make sense, but
yeah, I suppose it would make sense, really.
and it's like, so they're not trying to hold you back, but it feels like that, I
Yeah.
think, or it maybe felt like that for me. But yeah, so anyway, moving on,
So we're now in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And
Nottingham Park, and you've got like
Yeah,
the
so
bigger
our-
heritage projects
So our
kicking
daughter
off.
Hannah was born in 97, and then Harry was born in 99. And going back to like saying putting the hours in,
Yeah,
I missed a lot of their growing up because I was working 7 days a week. You know, a weekend to me was a normal work day.
yeah.
And even on a Sunday, bank holidays, and that was just trying to get ahead. You know, because we've got this now yard. We're now employing, I think, probably about 14, 15 lads, and that's when we first hit on the skill shortage.
Yeah,
Because my dad used to turn up with a guy he'd just been playing cards with.
yeah.
I said, "Who's he?" "Oh, he's a good lad. He can drive." "Well, has he got a driving license?" "Well, he's not got a driving license, but he can drive." And it was that scenario all the time. And we had 4 or 5 really good roofers,
Yeah,
who, I wouldn't say there was mercenary, but if a job came up at the weekend where they could earn a bit more money, then they would let you down.
yeah, got you.
But then come back to you obviously in the week, because
Yeah.
that was their bread and butter. And that's when I first started realising, we're not getting the youngsters. Traditionally, it was always somebody's nephew or somebody's friend's friend, son, who wanted a job. And invariably, there was because they'd been kicked out of school, or they'd lost their way, or they'd been in and out of trouble.
Yeah.
Should we say? I won't say
Setting fires and stuff.
setting fires and stuff.
Maybe a bit worse than that.
Yeah. So we took our first apprentice on in 97, and he did quite well. He finished his course, and then went and did his own thing.
Yeah,
And so in the early 2000s, we was picking up some really good work, and we got in with a massive company called Morgan Sindel.
Mhm.
And it was when the boom of the student accommodation was just kicking off in Nottingham. Because 97, Tony Blair came in, and his mantra was education. And he wanted more than 50% of school leavers in university or further education.
yeah,
And he achieved that by, and more. You drive into any major city now, and it's just all student accommodation.
yeah.
And the polytechnics was made into universities, and in Nottingham we've got 2 universities now, so it's massive business, which helped us in the early 2000s, because we was just doing a load of student accommodation. I think my first biggest job over £100,000 was a student accommodation block, and we did it. And we did it well, and it kicked on to other stuff. And that's when we had starting getting the money behind us to take on more apprentices and more school leavers. And it was always a bit of a challenge to get the right caliber of school leaver.
Yeah. Even going back
to the early 2000s.
So it's not really a new thing.
No, it's not. It's not a new thing. What at all? So 2006, we picked up a huge job, Birmingham Law Courts, which we did in 2007 through to 2008. 18 months, and we had to do it at night.
Oh, really?
We had to start at 5 o'clock and work till the early hours because it was, I think even now, it's one of the biggest law courts in Europe. It's got something like 22, 24 courts, all operational. And it's a beautiful building, Victorian building. And that was just alone, I think it was just under 4 million quid for the roof.
Wow.
So it was a huge job for us.
In 18 months as well?
In 18 months.
Big project.
Big project. So we kind of put all our eggs in one basket on this one job because we literally had to flood it with guys.
Yeah, I can imagine,
35, nearly 40 guys working on there full time. And the money was good. Bought a flash car, paid most of my mortgage off. We bought a huge new unit. So we still had the old yard, which we rented out, and we bought this massive unit on an industrial estate in the north of Nottingham, the Ball area where I'm born and bred.
Yeah,
most of our guys come from. And then the crash happened. So 2000 and going into 2008, that's when Lehman's Bank first went through, and then it just like a domino effect.
Yeah,
and the work dried up literally overnight. And we'd foolishly not kept our eye on the ball in terms of other work.
Yeah.
The court jobs came to an end, and we had the bank knocking on the door because our overdraft was astronomical.
Yeah.
And we was literally 10 days from them pulling the plug from underneath us, and we managed to borrow some money again off a very nice chap.
Don't say your granddad again.
No, it wasn't my granddad.
This was out of his reach. Just one, I think.
This one was out of his reach. So we managed to borrow quite a bit of money. Again, we had to pay it back with a little bit of an interest on that, and we did. And we muddled through again through to 2010, 2011, and the government at the time was the coalition government had just come in.
Yeah.
So it was Ed Davey was the energy minister, and there was big on the solar panels. And we was doing a bit of training because we had our own rigs, and we had our own little training area. And we got a phone call out of the blue from the local council saying, "Can you train our surveyors show them how solar panels are fitted to pitched roofs?" And they came along, and we showed them how to fit the brackets, how to fix the rails. It was all on-roof systems.
Yeah.
And these other guys came, and they was from a big company called Keepmoat, a Doncaster-based company. And they got the contracts to fit all these panels, but they didn't have anybody to fit them.
Right.
So they says, "Because you know how to fit them, do you want the contract?"
Yeah.
And our looks literally just changed overnight.
Yeah.
And we had a good 18 months, 2 years where it went stupid.
It was a boom.
Yeah. We had window fitters coming down from Leeds asking to fit the panels, and we was, I think we've still got the UK record. We did 709 houses in 5.5 weeks because the fit tariff was changing.
Yeah.
So we started it around about, I say, end of October, and we had to be done by a certain time because the fit tariff was being massively cut. They set the tariff too high. The government did. It was stupidly high.
Yeah.
And then they cut it, and then they cut it again, and then they cut it again.
Yeah.
And now what is it? 6p, 7p?
Yeah, it was crazy in those early.
46 pence.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember back to when I first started was the end of 2012, 2013. So that had been around about the same time.
That was right. Yeah. So we on the back of that we picked up. We went to some solar awards in London.
Yeah.
and we got the install of the year for 2012.
Yeah.
And there's a guy there who's he's from up this way, and he'd got a massive contract with Sainsbury's, and he overheard us, and he says, "Do you want to do some Sainsbury's stores on flat roofs?"
Yeah.
And he wanted a roofing contractor who got all the tickets, because then we could like do a condition survey first, then fit the actual arrays,
Yeah.
and then give him a warranty.
Yeah.
And that's what he wanted.
Makes sense.
And if you can remember, the Olympics was on in London, 2012.
Yeah.
So it was the build up to that. And our furthest north was South Shields, Sainsbury's, and our furthest south was Hastings.
Yeah.
And we did 39 stores in a 8-week period.
That's crazy.
And we had guys everywhere,
Yeah.
you know, and it was all craned on, and we had to have like a supervisor on site. We had to have a banksman.
Yep.
So logistically wise, it was a nightmare, but it was good money.
And that would have been something you'd probably never done before, I would imagine. At
Never,
that point.
never done it. So we had to go on a short course how to fit all the feet, which is now it's like a Vanderbilt system, but back then it was about 7 or 8 different components.
Yeah,
you know, and ballasting system, and they had to have structural surveys. And it was, and again, they wanted to do all these before the tariff got cut again.
Yeah.
So we did that. 2012, 2013 was a bit of a lean year again. And then it started to go back up, because obviously the coalition government was then spending money.
Yep.
By that time, we'd opened our training academy, which then became an actual college.
Yep.
And we'd linked up with our local school, which was an academy, and it was a super duper £7 million school. But the vocational training was smaller than this room. And I said, "Who's designed this?" So I had to become a governor to persuade the other governors to spend £70,000 to build a canopy on a service road round the back to create a construction area.
I think I remember seeing it, because it was in the papers and all of that, wasn't it? It was like like I think I've seen articles online, or I've maybe seen you sharing it at some point.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it, like the canopies, and then
so that was the Ball Academy, and we had a conveyor belt of kids, because we was involved with them. We could actually, let's say, handpick them, but we could see the ones who was got aptitude, you know, and was very good with their hands.
So they were doing it there as part of their school curriculum as such.
Correct. So
roofing specifically, or
no,
all construction?
So what we did, there was 3 elements. So it brickwork, joinery, and roofing.
Yep.
And what we did, we designed basically a small house.
Yeah.
So you had 4 pupils on one house. One did one corner, the other did the other corner. So it's four sections, which were then linked up. They had to then build the rafters.
Yep.
And then they put the roof on.
It's good.
And we supplied all the bricks. I got the local Travis Perkins to donate bricks and juicings, because we had a good relationship with them. We supplied them all our offcuts of lats.
Yeah.
Any tiles, mainly plain tiles, because it's just dead easy to work with.
Yeah. Nice and manageable.
It makes it manageable, but also they can make little patterns out of them as well. And the tutor there, who was a fine arts tutor, that was his degree. His dad was a builder.
Right.
So he used to help his dad when he was younger. So he knew about bricklaying and a little bit, which all helped. And so from 2008, we started that, right up to present day, we've had over 70 pupils from that school, just that one school.
Yeah.
Who's gone on to do apprenticeships, who's gone on to either go into management. 17 of them have gone on to start their own companies.
Yeah.
2 of them are contracts managers for 2 massive companies. One's Hodgson Sayers, based in the northeast, but they've got a Nottingham office.
Yeah.
And the other one is a contracts manager for NRA, which are a big company in the Midlands, probably one of the biggest companies. So from little acorns, you can see how they've all progressed.
Yeah.
Our senior contracts manager came through the same route.
Yeah.
Dean.
So how many of those came into your company, would you say?
Every one of them.
Oh, all of them?
All of them.
The 70?
Yeah, but then they've gone on to do other things.
Right, got you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've got a retention rate.
So 70 have come
74
into
it was in total.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's still going?
That's still going. So we've still got a link up with them. Their trust changed. So we had a period of about 2 or 3 years where they didn't do anything, and we're now just starting that off again. The tutor moved to another academy, the Newark Academy. So we've replicated exactly the same at that academy.
Yeah.
Although that's not in our catchment area, so we can't take them kids.
Okay.
So what we did, we had an open day with all the local builders and roofers around there. So we've got other companies now feeding off that.
Wow.
And if it could be replicated nationwide, it'd be fantastic.
And why do you think it wouldn't be? Or it isn't?
So in 2015, we had a visit from the then Prime Minister, David Cameron.
Yeah.
And he wanted to roll this out nationwide. He wanted to do pilots in every major city.
Yep.
With academy schools, because they've got a bit more autonomy. They can do that kind of thing. Whereas if it's under local authority, then they're a bit more restricted.
Yeah.
And then he had a referendum on Brexit, and he was out on his ear.
Yeah.
So, and it just fell flat.
And nobody else has really picked it up.
Nobody else has picked it up. And we proved it was 96% success from that pupil leaving school, because we're going at year 9 to presentations.
Yeah.
It was oversubscribed for year 10.
Yeah.
Because that's how many pupils wanted to do it. So you work with them from year 10 through to year 11.
Yep.
They got a qualification in it at school. And then we'll then handpick and invite maybe 10 for interviews. And then we used to pick the best 4 to 6. I think the most we had one year was 6. And on average, it was 4. So in a cycle of apprenticeships, we always had 12 in the system.
Yeah.
So the one be completing his apprenticeship was 4, just starting the apprenticeship.
A great model.
And you'd put them with teams who'd already done that as well.
Yeah.
So you'd have a lead roofer, an apprentice, and then a new apprentice.
Yeah.
And then the middle one was always like what we called an improver.
Yeah.
So he'd been through that process. But then he was passing on advice to the younger lad.
Yeah.
And it was just that cycle.
Yeah.
And we started getting the skills, and our company moved with it.
Yeah.
And people just don't see that. You'll always get the ones who would poach him and the ones who want to move on.
Yeah.
But that's just life.
And do you think that there was a lot of loyalty because of the way that you'd had them probably from such a young age, and then that is all they maybe knew, and then they thought, this person's giving me a chance, like would they likely stay there? Or
you did get that to a certain extent.
But some people you maybe built that well that they can go kind of thing.
But the other certain extent was it was all about logistics.
Yeah.
So because they all lived fairly in a 2-mile radius of the school, and our unit was literally just up the road from the school, it was all about logistics as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to explain to people. There's no point in me going to Newark Academy and handpicking kids, because then they've got to get 25 miles.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Across town.
Yeah.
It's like getting a kid from here to go to Edinburgh.
Do you think was there people that would have kind of thought that it was like you were only doing it for your own interest sort of thing, or like, did you have any like backlash of any of that? Or
Yeah. So when we opened the college and we tried to get other roofing companies involved, there was always that, well, why would I send my, youngster to you? Because then you're going to poach him.
Yeah.
And it was nothing to do with that. We already had our conveyor belt of talent coming from the school.
Yeah.
So there's that suspicion and a certain jealousy.
Skepticism a wee bit. Yeah. It can be quite damaging, that I think, in roofing for the industry in general, that it is quite it is still like it's not the most collaborative, really.
It's not
like me and you sat here having a conversation as 2 fellow roofing contractors, but also we've got there's no way we would be competing or anything as well. No. So it's probably difficult if it's someone right in your vicinity and you're pricing for the same work or trying to hire from the same talent pool. But I think there's a lot more to be had from letting the barriers come down and collaborating with other like roofing contractors as opposed to not doing it. I think there's a lot can be done, and also from a point of view, like as a business owner as well, like it's nice to speak to other roofing contractors and know you share the same problems. And
because when you're really busy in the summer, you'll get subbies who come in to work for you who's worked for every Tom, Dick and Harry in that area.
Yeah.
and I can't see what the difference is, you know.
Yeah.
And then come September, they'll go on to work for somebody else, or
Yeah.
they'll either come back to you, you know. And it's you see the same faces all the time.
Yeah.
And the ones who do it right, who come and work for you and leave on good terms, can always come back again.
Yeah.
You know, it's the ones who we've created a mercenary aspect because of this chronic skills gap.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of what I call the smaller companies out there who will be happy to poach your guys off you, regardless, because they don't do no training.
Yeah. And that is the sticking point. It's when you look at what the investment of the training can be, and you then do just look around, and there's other people who like they'll just wait until you've got someone trained, and they'll just poach them. And but that's always going to exist. You've still got to do something, I think, to just fight against that. And
it's what galls me is that you get a lot of people. There's people in the NFRC, there's people on the NFRC committee who talk a good game, but then they don't back it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name any names on this, but it does frustrate me.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Nah, I get what you mean. So how do you handle the aspect of, like, I don't think there's a massive issue. Like, there is quite a big issue, but I don't think it's as big as it's made out to be around young people getting into a trade. Like, I feel like if we were to say, look, we're going to take on 20 apprentices this year, I think we'd fill the spaces. So I think there is people coming into that, but we couldn't, on the basis of, I think there's more, like, the experience is going out the other end. So I wouldn't feel like I've got the setup with enough, like, experienced tradesmen
we're an aging
people.
workforce, and we've been an aging workforce for generations.
Yeah.
And you're right in a way. There is some good youngsters out there.
Yeah.
But not enough coming in to fill that void.
Yeah.
Of the experienced lads. They're either leaving because they're getting demoralised, or they're leaving on health grounds.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest cause, especially in the construction industry. Bad backs, bad shoulders, bad knees.
Yeah.
And we're just not catching up.
You always get told to put them knee pads on and thought, no. and then when you start to wear them, it's probably too late. You've already done the damage at that point.
Well, when I first wore knee pads, I was probably in my late teens, and my dad laughed at me.
Yeah.
When I wore gloves, he laughed at me.
Yeah, it's mad. I was telling you about my dad, where, like, he's had a hip replacement, he's got, like, needs 2 new ankles. Like, he'll never work again now. He's doing odd bits and bobs, but you know, he's like early 60s, and it's just, I've done it the opposite way. Like, I came off the tools quite early and things like that, and just got my teeth stuck into business. And, like, I'm predominantly an office guy now. If I'm not in the office, I'm in podcasting or doing something like that. It's a different world, I guess. But, like, I do remember the pain, and I never done it for that long. So sometimes I just think, how is it, like, there should be a different pathway for a roofer, that, like, it's not everyone that will go on and maybe like start up on their own, self-employed, or have a business, but there should be a pathway where at some point they can start to really go into a zone where they give back their skills.
Yeah.
And I think they should have more support, and they should get paid well for that too. Not like if they were to go and maybe teach in a college, say, for example, they shouldn't be, like, taking a huge cut in pay and everything they've ever worked for now, and they're just sort of demoralised, like you said, to this.
Well, I was gonna get onto that because no matter if we manage to get 100,000 youngsters coming through tomorrow, we've not got the colleges, we've not got the trainers to do it. And you're right, the trainers aren't paid, and the college lecturers aren't paid, in my opinion, enough.
No.
And to attract that talent, like you say, ex-roofers who maybe, they're not old enough to retire, but they're old enough to start feeling the aches and pains of the industry. To go on to do that, there's no incentive for them to do that.
Because the thing is like, here's what is probably happening is, said older roofer is, he's getting really sore. He's thinking, right, I need to weigh this up. How much longer can I go? And then at some point, I think they do just make this decision where they go, I might just need to go into, like, Tesco warehouse. This happens. It happened a lot probably in the 2008 crash. Like, I seen it, like, I was doing my apprenticeship at that time, but I seen a lot of, like, roofers who went over and went in there. Not just Tesco, but whatever, kind of like that type of job. and some of them never came back.
Driving for Amazon.
Yeah, driving and like all different things. So like if we like there definitely should be an opportunity for them to either make the same money or potentially even more.
Yeah.
I'd say more just because it's then a progression in their career and it gives them an incentive to actually, because they're going to need to probably learn how to teach as well. Because although you could be the best tradesman in the world, but like, are you actually good enough to teach this new generation that's coming through? Like that's probably, it's two very opposite ends of the scale. Like I was having this conversation with someone and they said, we've now got like the new people coming in and the people that's going out, like they used to get the belt if they never done what they were told. And these people are like on their phone and all of that. So it's like, they're kind of two totally different ends of the spectrum. And it's how do you get them to be able to merge so that the skills can be passed? So that's probably an education in itself for these people. So I'd like to see something like that come in. I think we need a lot of support to come in, to be honest.
I think we do.
From all angles.
You've got the ex-servicemen. We've had probably about 6 or 7 ex-servicemen, all with different problems and issues. And they've been fantastic because they've been built with that discipline.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit more older.
They've probably got that integrity you spoke about and those
They've got the
values
integrity, they've got that little bit more older. They need a bit managing.
Yeah.
Especially the ones who's got proper, PTSD and all that goes with that. And that is one aspect what we could tap into more. But we do need more colleges. We do need more lecturers. We do need, the tutors to be paid.
Yeah.
What they're worth. Leeds College of Building is a fantastic college, probably one of the best in the country.
Yep.
And they're always oversubscribed there because they've not, even though they're expanding, they've not got the space or they've not got the tutors.
Yeah.
And we've got Kings Norton in the Midlands and not much more. Even in London, there's not that many specialist roofing colleges. There's building colleges who might do a bit of roofing.
Yeah.
So we need this national, I suppose, discussion about it.
Yeah.
Which we have been discussing for the last 20 odd years.
Yeah. How do we get it from like discussion to action then? How do we like see really it's not just the government, but a big part of it is like they could change the dynamic by actually saying we're going to give industry X amount and like perhaps like we would maybe do the similar model to like what you did or something, but there's got to be a way to be supported to do that because that's a big risk.
Yeah, well, recently they've said that they're going to fill these skill shortage by reducing the amount of time apprenticeships are done, which it baffles me because you're not going to get bricklayers and roofers qualified in 8 months.
No,
no matter how talented they are.
Do you think that a 2-year program could work?
Minimum.
Yeah,
minimum 2 years.
Because I know that sort of some of the committee on the Scottish region of the NFRC, like they're like some of them would extend the apprenticeship, so they're saying take it from 4 to like 6 years, which I don't think that's going to suit the modern day young person coming through.
No,
I think they want things faster.
I think it should be a minimum 2 years at college.
Yeah,
with maybe 2 years what we call improving.
Yeah.
So even though they'll come out and say, I'm a qualified roofer, they never are.
Yeah.
Because then they've got to spend time on the site.
Yeah.
They need that experience.
Because we've got, like, we've tried different things because you do. So, like, you've got the sort of 4-year apprenticeship route, which is quite standard. And we would usually think that that's more suited to someone probably coming fresh out of school and they've maybe done 6 months with us, went through the winter and thought, this is for me. I'm all right with the winter. And we're like, great, let's put you out on your journey. So they're like 16 and a half, maybe 17, and then they're away for 4 years. So at that point, we're kind of almost putting them in the hands of now the college. And like, we can do our bit as well, obviously, but they're kind of in the hands of the college of what they'll then become. And then, we're probably like limited with like our own in-house training. We'd like to get better at that. So we think that's part of it that could be improved upon and just make that overall experience better for just a better version of a roofer at the end of it, I guess. But like you said, at that point, at that 4-year part, they might be qualified, but you're not a roofer at that point. No. Like, there's probably most of the things you've never even done on your own, and you might not even have ran your own job. There's like so many different things, but my thought process might be that, like, I think when young people get to the point of like sort of 19, 20, and putting them on like a 2-year sort of MVQ level 2, like on-site assessment. So they've done a bit of roofing, but they're not going to go to college. It's, for whatever reason, it's not really for them. It would maybe be a bit of a backward step. It's not the environment they're going to learn best in. I think if there was a hybrid where they get the on-site assessment, but they get like intense training plugged into that somehow.
Yeah,
And that's the bit I
think
would
it needs
need
to be a
support with.
combination of the two. So you've got your school leavers who, like you say, they're green from school. They'll go through the college process, then they'll learn on site.
Yeah.
And then you've got your older lads who's probably been around their houses a little bit. They're, like you say,
They know this is what they want now.
Yeah, they know that's what they
Yeah.
want now. They've tried all the other little bits and
Yeah.
bobs. They've been in and out of trouble, and they want to settle down now.
Yeah.
And that's the gap we're missing. And absolutely, we need to
I think
encourage them,
those-
do them on-site training,
Yeah.
do the health and safety courses, then move on to some specialist courses like your lead courses, your heritage stuff. And that could be a way. I'm not saying it's going to plug the skills gap, but
No.
it'll certainly
It'll
go
speed it up.
a long way.
It's probably one of the short-term things, because the long-term naturally is the young people, getting them excited about it, celebrating the trade, showing how good a career path it can be, which you said we have been doing for 20 years, maybe not good enough in all the areas across the UK, but like we can do a job at that, but that's still 4 to 6 years maybe before you've got a roofer, really.
Yeah.
It's a long time. Especially if you've not got the conveyor belt. I feel like the conveyor belt sort of is stopped really in a lot of ways. So yeah, I just feel that it's, I don't know. You just start to get like bamboozled again. Like try and stay positive with it.
Flat roofing is a classic example.
Yeah.
So you'll get a flat roofer who's been to college and he's done his flat roofing, and he'll go work for a small company or a medium company or a large company doing various membranes.
Yeah.
And say Bowder.
Yep.
So he's been doing felting for 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
He still has to then be inspected to fit that felt, even though felting is the same. Or Langley, Bowder,
Yeah.
ICO, it's all the same.
Yep.
It's the same techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what winds me up a little bit.
Yeah.
In the fact that you've got a really good team of flat roofers,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't do that membrane, and it was all it's kind of closed shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It got to be a cartel, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what really wind me up. But felting is a very good example in the fact that there's a lot of journeymen. So you'll have a really good felter, I suppose a second fixer, if you like, and then the labourer. But the labourer could probably put down the first layer, the underlayer, but he's not good enough for the cap sheet.
Yeah.
And that's where that extra training could come in, on site.
Yeah, just getting them that to
Because
that
he
next
wants
part.
to move that,
Yeah.
to that next level.
Yeah.
But them two are never going to let him go, because obviously if he starts putting cap sheet down, he could move on.
Yeah.
Or he could take their work.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's kind of it's quite competitive in that sense as well. What do you think what do you think needs to happen then? What's your kind of I don't know if you've seen my post on LinkedIn, but I'd kind of said like the three, like a genie, the skill shortage. Genie's given us 3 wishes. Like, what would be your kind of?
Yeah. So what did I say to you? I said we need proper investment in training the tutors in the colleges, and they need to be paid a decent remuneration in order to attract them and to retain them.
Yeah.
There needs to be a link up with industry and schools. But the way that the education sector's policy is set up, it's bums on seats.
Mm-hmm.
It's very few and far between you'll get into a school to do even talks.
Yeah.
Academies are a bit easier
because,
like I say, they've got a bit more autonomy and they might have a vocational study side.
Yeah.
So unless you've got that, you're not going to get the conveyor belt of youngsters coming into the industry. There is that middle gap. And you're right in what you're saying. There's a lot of, I would say late teens to mid-20s.
I think they've just seen enough at that point. Like they've maybe had like the Amazon job, or they've had like they've been in Tesco, or they've done the kind of
they've matured a little
warehousey type things, and then they've went, I actually want maybe a qualification of some sort. I want to have a skill behind me, and they kind of look at the trade and they go, I think I could do that
because it is good money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah,
it's a good money. It's a good career path. I suppose the opportunities are endless.
It's wide open as well just now. Like it's wide open for like young, like hungry individuals coming through who want to be leaders.
Well, it's not rocket science that the most successful companies in this country invest in training
Yeah,
and invest in their workforce.
yeah,
You know, it's we're not inventing the wheel.
aye,
It's just dead simple. You
Yeah.
invest in training, you invest in your workforce,
yeah,
you'll be successful. You'll pick up more work.
yeah,
The more work you pick up, the better work you can pick up, and you can pay even more.
yeah.
Um, it's a
It's,
simple.
it's like it's the catch-22. It's like when I look at our business, it's like the size of business we are. It's like we've not got a training budget as such. Do you know, you're like, oh, if we can try and get the lads on that course, we'll do it. If we can do a wee bit in-house, we'll do it. It's shoestring budget. I'd love to have a budget.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I'm not just asking for a handout for the government, but I kind of am. Like I probably am. Do you know, if they give us X amount, that is only for training, and this is the things that you're going to need to use it
I
on.
reckon if you can,
No messing about with it. Like you can't waste it anywhere. It is literally for training, and you can start to prove we're using it here, and here's what.
if the government could give you right, so you're going to take an apprentice on, you're going to commit to train that apprentice through his full apprenticeship period,
Yeah,
and you can have a contract to say that apprentice is going to stay with you for at least 2, maybe 3 years afterwards.
yep,
You should be paid for the years of that, and then obviously then you take him on,
yeah,
promise to take him on.
yeah,
The way that employment laws work, you cannot have that contract
yeah,
because it's restricting his movement of
yeah,
work
yeah.
afterwards.
And it is hard. Like I think, do you know? Would I have went into that? I don't know. I might have, but then I know that like when I did leave and start up on my own, I was ready for that. Like I don't think any contract would have held me where I was. Do you know? I just had that desire and sort of I wanted to get up and move, if that makes sense. And I think even the sort of I think it was like 6, maybe close on 7 years that I was with that same employer. So I was quite a loyal person. I did my apprenticeship and then I stayed on that. But I just like I don't think I could have stayed any longer.
The government's making it so harder because with a new increase in national insurance,
Yeah,
it's put a lot of companies off from taking on youngsters because
yeah,
why would they?
yeah.
You
Even
know?
some of them that's just hitting a certain age bracket as well, if they're not like sort of like right out of school, like the like the national minimum wage is just shot right up as well. So
Yeah.
if an apprentice is that wee touch older, it is expensive, and it's just they're making it harder actually. And it should be getting easier. So does that cover the skill shortage? Do you think we covered enough there?
I could talk all
We
day
could
about
go
it.
on all
Yeah.
day. Maybe back to like, so what sort of where's your sort of business at now then, and what's next on the agenda, or what's the future holding for you?
So from 2015 is where we left off. We after I suppose the last recession where we was doing a lot of work for big builders, you know, your Keatmoats, your Morganstone Dells, a lot of local, long established companies in Nottingham was doing work for, and they all went to the wall over that period from 2008 around about 2012.
Yeah,
So I looked at a model. How can we get away from working for main contractors?
yeah,
And in 2015, there was a new framework which came out in the East Midlands called EAMS, Efficiency East Midlands. And we managed to get onto that framework, and you had to tick all the boxes. So you had to have ISO, you had to have construction line, Trustmark. We was already in the NFRC, which was a big tick as well. And we managed to get onto this. We scraped onto this framework. I think it was like they take 4 roofers, and we was number 4. And a couple of councils picked us up.
Mm-hmm.
And you work to set rates. You sign 4-year contracts with them. So you've got that continuity.
Yeah.
You've got that assurance that you've got work now for the next 4 years.
Yeah,
And we managed to then grow that, and we picked up a few more councils, and you're working direct for the council.
Mm-hmm. So your money's quite safe. Well, it's totally safe at that point.
It's totally safe
really.
because you actually know what budget they've got at the beginning of the year, and that budget can fluctuate.
Yeah.
Because they suddenly grab more money from different pots.
Yeah.
And at the height, we was doing for 7 local councils. So we went from probably a £2.5 million turnover to around about 6.5 million. And we've been steady at that for the last few years now.
Wow.
And then 8 years ago, we picked up Warwick District Council, which is probably one of our biggest clients, which got extended last year. And hopefully we're going to get extended this year. So we've got a satellite office down there with a big unit and office staff.
Is that far from you?
From Nottingham, it's about an hour.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it mainly covers like the leafy suburbs of South Birmingham, you know, goes right up to Solihull, if you know Solihull, and some lovely villages. And Warwick and Leamington Spa, two beautiful places. Not at the moment, because there's a lot of roadworks at the moment because of HS2. So it's a nightmare. And that's where we are. We've moved away from main contractors.
Yeah.
We don't do any new build work, just because there's no
margins there, is
no
there?
margins in it.
So you've really found your niche in this social housing element.
Social
really.
housing, which has a heritage side, because there's a lot of listed buildings we have to look after as well.
That's good.
And it's going really well.
And that's probably like a breath of fresh air, considering what happened when you got like the courtrooms.
It's just a roller coaster before.
The big contract, and you thought, oh, this is great. And you just assume at that point there'll be another one that comes up after this is done.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then when it didn't come, like that's probably built that bit of fear of thinking, how do I make this more continual, or I don't know, maybe just a bit more peace of mind, really.
Yeah.
Because you can always build better from that. We're very much, I was telling you this morning, when you were getting the wee tour of our place, it's like we're very much private homeowner. 95% probably. We do the odd sort of commercial thing here and there for like just particular like clients that we've built really good relationships with.
Yeah.
But the private homeowner thing, it's like, and we have grew every single year. So there's never anything to suggest that it's, it is quite volatile, but we have always grown. But it's like, it would be quite nice to say that's what we've got on for the next 4 years. But we always start like, it's almost like a football season. The league table's at zero again, and you've maybe just done multi-millions there of turnover and whatnot, and then you go again and you go zero. Yeah. It's a lot to go. We're going to need 4 million this year to turn a good profit. We're going to need X amount. You're like, wow. It's just, but
well, I think
it's just the model.
You've got to go like that, and you've got to go like I won't say flat line, but you've got to consolidate what you've got, then go again, then consolidate, then go again, and then hopefully somebody will come and buy you out.
One day, that'll be it. And going forward, anything kind of future plans or what?
So me and my wife, we took a back seat from the company in 2019. We'd had a business coach for a couple of years. Called Action Coach. And he came in and he said, we need to take you out the business. Because he sat us down. He said, right, what's your long-term goal? And we said, well, to probably sell the business and get out and do the things we'd like to do. And he said, well, you're never going to do that the way you're going. He says, you're doing 70 plus hours a week. Jane's doing 50 odd hours. Plus then you're talking at business when you get home, and you're never going to switch off. So we worked on how to work on the business and not in the business. So in 2019, we'd got to that stage where we needed to bring a management team in, and we interviewed, and we've got Jackie, who's our general manager, and then we brought Adam in, and then COVID happened. So we completely locked down like everybody did. And as we started to come out of COVID, we'd already picked Warwickshire District Council up, and we got 4 or 5 other councils at the time. We just boomed because they flipped all their budgets around. So instead of getting into houses to do bathrooms and kitchens, they spent it on roofs, anything external. The councils wanted to do that. So for the next 18 months, we literally just went vroom, like that, and we couldn't take on enough guys.
Wow.
We're obviously trying to get out of the business, so we had to put a bit more time into the business. And then Adam came along, who's now our director, and slowly we just migrated back. So we don't have anything to do with the day-to-day operations. We dip our toes in. Jane, my wife, goes on the laptop probably a couple of times a week from home to look at the finances, and she talks to Jo, our finance girl, probably 2 or 3 times a week. We talk to Adam maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and that's it.
Brilliant.
So we're now at a stage now where we did a Jeremy Clarkson. We bought a small farm just after lockdown.
I've seen this on your LinkedIn, accidental farmer.
Accidental farmer. I've been on a wine course because my ambition is to grow a vineyard on the land. We've got chickens, we've got 3 dogs. Our oldest daughter's now left home, so she's just bought her first house 2 years ago on her own.
Brilliant.
Which was and she works for the MOD. She didn't want anything to do with our company.
Yeah. It's interesting that how different people just take different paths, don't they? It's like they could easily have just went straight into it, but equally sometimes I'll not have any of that. I'll go this way.
Our son works for the company.
Yeah.
So he did his apprenticeship with us. So he's a Slater and Tyler.
Yeah.
So there is that connection still. And then we're just hoping that Adam will hopefully buy the business. He's already intimated that he wants to take it on. He wants to buy Zach.
Yeah,
basically,
it's good.
which is good.
It's a good way to go. Yeah.
So like you, I mean, I came off the tools when I was 32, 33.
Yeah.
I'm 56 now. So I've been off the tools for a good 23 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still involved. I'm still on the NFRC, National Heritage Committee.
Yeah.
So that keeps me busy. I'm on the new solar committee, which I find very interesting. Because we've got the MCS people on there. We've got Wienerberger, we've got Marley on there.
Yeah.
All the big players, involved in solar. And how we can get roofers more involved in it, because it's always been electricians led.
Yeah.
And it's okay sending roofers on a solar install course, but for them to be MCS accredited, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Over 80% of companies in the UK employ less than 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to take on a full-time electrician is a big ask for them.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah.
So we're trying to then link up with like partnership agreements.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done. We've got a partnership agreement with a electrical company who are absolutely fantastic on that side. The roofers do the roofing element, they do the electrical element.
How it should be.
There
shouldn't be any one of the two doing getting involved in.
And you can give the full warranty then without any comeback.
Yeah, it's the way to do it.
Which is on new build sites. I was talking to a friend of mine who's on the NFRC committee of the Midlands, and all he does is new build around the Northampton area. Yeah. And he's partnered with a company, but prior to that, his guys were fitting the panels. Scaffolding was coming down. Electricians were going in like literally weeks and weeks later.
Yeah.
So where was the link up?
Yeah, if there was an issue or anything, it's a bit late.
Because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Roofers are going to blame electricians. Electricians are going to blame the roofers.
Yeah.
It was a crazy
complex kind of scenario. But I think that is the way to treat it. Is good roofing company, good electrical company, and blend the two
together,
and just get used to how each other work and have a good system that works. And
unfortunately, you've got a lot of electrical companies in this country who will just employ anybody to do the roofing element.
Yeah.
So
they actually don't see it as that important.
Well, they don't look at the roof as a roofer,
essentially.
So they won't do a condition survey.
Yeah.
And they'll be fitting panels on roofs which really
might not need it. Yeah. Might not be able to take it.
Yeah.
It's because as a roofer, you can look at it and you can say, right, I'll be fine just now, but in the next couple of years, that's probably going to need replaced. And it's a bit crazy to then have to go and take those panels off and redo. With the solar side of things, like we did a lot of that where it was, sometimes even like if the panels are going here, it might not be the full re-roof that they did, but we'd maybe say, look, just maybe reslate that panel, get your like that panel of the roof and get the new solar array on there. You can always do the other panels later if you want, but it's crazy to put like brand new solar panels onto that old slated roof. Like it doesn't make sense. And a lot of the time I think people actually although it maybe means at that point it's a wee bit more expensive just getting the roof done as well with it. You're doubling up on it's the same scaffold cost and you're already there. So it's like, I think it does make sense to do that. And certain people are just like,
even in the the fixings, where you hear horror stories where they're just drilled straight through the slates or
some
straight
of
through
them
the
you
tile.
see as
One of the guys who's on the committee, he owns Genius Roof Solutions, and he's made some fantastic.
I've seen them.
Sleeves.
The sleeves. Yeah, they're really
which
good.
Which is good. It is moving that way now.
Yeah.
We just need a bit more people on board with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anything we didn't cover there? Are we all good?
I
think we got through it all.
I think we've done really well.
We got your story. We got plenty about that skill shortage. We touched on solar there. We touched on everything. It was a pleasure to hear it all. And there was quite a lot of similarities as well, which was quite interesting, even for the fire starting days. But it was a pleasure, mate, and I appreciate you coming up. And I actually, it looks as though what I'm really pleased to see as well is I've always sort of worked quite hard at getting my business to maybe run without me, so that the longer term picture is that I'll be able to exit healthily and on my own terms. And it looks like you're going to achieve that through the way that you've done.
You've got to do that. If you want somebody to buy your business, they want to buy the business, and the business can run as successfully without you being in the business. And when we first had the business coach and he started explaining all that, I went, "You're actually right."
I was the same. I've worked with like action coaches as well in the past, and the first one that I ever met, that's what he said to me. I think it's Brad Sugar's saying, but he said, "You don't own a business, you own a job." And then he said, "A business is a commercially profitable enterprise that operates without you in it."
Yeah.
When I heard that, a light bulb did go off. I thought, that does make sense. And if it logically makes sense, it's like, well, why would you not try and do it that way?
Yeah.
We've actually we've got a chap coming along tonight to the West Lothian Construction Forum that I'm the chairman of, and he sold his business, and it's all about that as well. It's like, even if you're not ready to sell, or you're not ever got an intention to sell, still makes sense to build it so that it operates without you, because then you have ultimately choices. But thanks again, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for making the trip up, and I'll look forward to sharing the episode with everyone. And let's keep in touch. And
really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Good man. Thanks again. Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks, guys. That's another great episode done. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you are enjoying what we're doing here, then absolutely get yourself subscribe to the YouTube channel, or like, share, and give us some comments about what you like, you don't like, who you'd like to see coming on. But yeah, if you want to hear more from Jason, you're probably best to get him on LinkedIn, or you can go through his website as well, but we'll put all the links in the bio. So yeah, we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thanks very much.